How's it going? Oh my god. My phone buzzes every single time I press record. It pisses me off, honestly. So, I thought I'd do like a progress update. Not an update, a progress check on how my one of the reasons I started this is going. So, one of the aims was to improve my speaking, which I started before this, well before, because my placement started about 6 months before I started this. But I thought I want to improve my my speaking, how I communicate to people, how I formulate my own thoughts. And I thought the other day I just watched a few of the older ones. I watched a few videos from me of me before that, and there's family videos and stuff of me speaking. And I thought I'll just go off the top of my head, little training thing, talk talk about the formulation of my own thoughts, how I present those thoughts, how I speak. So let's get going. Now, right from the off, you might realize my enunciation isn't great still. Part of the reason of that, I'd say, is accent. Because where I'm from, right, you you speak in a certain way. If you speak differently with the oh my god, with the ethnicity that I am, I couldn't even say ethnicity there. With the ethnicity that I am, in the area that I am, in the city that I'm in, it gets a bit strange to speak in a certain way. So you kind of got to reserve it for when you're doing presentations, which I did, and it really helped during presentations. Um, there you go. There's my first but it just doesn't work in everyday conversations or when I'm talking casually, because at one point it just becomes too posh, if you know what I mean. It becomes like I'm talking to someone, and if you over enunciate the T's and the D's and the G's and every ending of every word, then it just becomes weird. So there's a certain limit to that. I'd say that's one of the things where I don't over enunciate the word, the letters in the words, but I enunciate them where I can. If I can say it instead of it, I will. If I can say better instead of better, I will. Sometimes it's a case of, being more casual. I'll speak more casually to my friends and my family, but if I'm talking to someone new, I'll talk slightly differently. Right now, I'm talking in a more casual way, just because it's just how I naturally speak. I'd say that's one of the cons of it. The thing I've not actively improved, but I do actively think about it whenever I'm doing something that needs it. In terms of formulating my thoughts, when I look back on my first ever thing on Ormun, I was saying a lot of ums and ahs because I was kind of just blurting out words. It comes to my mind, I say it, and because of that, I wasn't thinking a few sentences ahead of what I'm saying. Right now, I'm thinking of what I'm saying, but I'm thinking ahead of what I'm going to say. And if I don't know what I'm going to say, then I'll just stop, and you'll get that awkward silence for a bit. But I'd say the awkward silence is better than having me saying and ah and and like filling it with whatever I can. So it's perspective. I'd say I've improved in that regard. I formulate my thoughts much better. Another important thing is speaking pace. I'd say my friends and my family probably won't notice it too much because, like I said, I talk casually. But whenever I'm in, whenever it comes to a topic I'm passionate about, I tend to go, I become Eminem. Do you know what I mean? So I'll talk fast when I don't need to. During my interview, I remember if I was trying to get through a topic quickly, I'd talk fast. During my early presentations, I'd kind of talk fast, stumble over my words, you know, I wouldn't think properly. Now I think I talk with a lot more measured kind of words. I say what I'm thinking, but only what I'm thinking. I don't come out with just a constant stream of words. I slow down my pace a lot, and it's good for me and it's good for the person that's listening, because it helps them listen to me better, it helps them understand better. Oftentimes people won't say it unless they're super honest, but when you talk super fast, they're not taking in what you're saying. I remember, I think last year I was kind of nerding out about something to my brother, and then he said, "Yeah, I zoned out about halfway about that. You were talking so fast." But nowadays, people, really take in the things I say. The other day, I was with my family and I got them all stargazing. It was because it was a nice, clear night. We had a barbecue and they were eating something I made. And then we were looking at the sky and they noticed all these satellites moving around. And my cousin, my younger cousin, she came up to me and she was asking me about certain things because she knows I'm into space. I'm not a physicist, but I'm a wiki warrior. So I, I know stuff beyond my field, but I'm still not a physicist. So she'd come up to me and ask me questions, and I realized, this is someone that isn't versed at all in this stuff. She doesn't know about, like, what does the color of a star mean, or the 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 sheer magnitude of the distance of the stars from us, or the stars from each other that we see. How the constellations were important. The historical kind of aspect of the constellations, the names. So, like, the constellations tend to have Greek names, the stars tend to have Arabic names, the planets have Roman names. So, I explained all of that, but I said it in a slow manner, one where she could take it in, because if you say it fast, then they're not going to take it in. It's just you're going to hit it right at them. It's going to bounce right off. I think that was part of my aim when I first started this. It was to, when I talk to people, I want them to take in what I'm saying better. I want them to be absorbed in what I'm saying, because the reason I started this was because I was talking to someone and just the way they spoke was really eloquent, and it kind of sucks you in, and it makes you wanna listen to them, makes you wanna hear them say more. So it inspires you to be like that, because if you can be someone who, when you speak, people listen, I think that's a invaluable trait. One which hopefully it'll help my career. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I'm saying I can definitely notice just a difference in my own mental kind of flow when I'm talking and how my tongue moves. Back to enunciation though, is you'll hear it in a lot of these. My mouth doesn't move when I talk. When you say like I eat like bean, I have a bad habit where my mouth doesn't open wide when I say bean, or teeth, or you know, or O, or T. You want to move your mouth. You want to enunciate what you say. You want to get it out what you're saying, because it makes it clear. It gives like a resonance to what you're saying, and that's something I can definitely improve. So I hope in 6 months' time, if I come back and check again, or 3 months or 2 months, whatever, if I can actively improve that aspect, then it'd be great. It'd just be a few steps till maybe achieving what I want. But I'd say overall, this Ulmun has been great because, like I said, it's not just for improving my speaking. I talk about a lot of bullshit as well. I think I spoke about Big Les Show, like the second or third one. I talk about things I like, things I don't like. I spoke about when I came back recently, I spoke about baking. Um, Sometimes I speak about more sensitive topics, like my 43rd birthday, which may or may not have been true. Or the one I personally like is this Thorn Bushes Roses, because I kind of reflected on that from the top of my... Well, all these videos are from the top of my head. I don't write them down. I don't think about them before I say it. Well, it comes to the top of my head, and I'll say, okay, stay there, 10 minutes, let me set up, off I go. And that's the whole premise of this. So It's got me thinking a lot sharper on my feet. It's got me, when I'm talking to people in real life. Ironically, it helps with conversational aspects because when you're talking to yourself like I am right now, you talk. You're imagining you're talking to someone, so you're having a conversation with yourself, and yeah, it helps. Have I grown as a person? Well, that's besides the point, mate. It's besides the point. But do I speak better? Do I speak well? I don't know. I think I speak better than when I started, but sometimes I have to make an active effort to speak better. And you'll notice it when I pause because my mind drifts off, or I just don't speak well sometimes. But I am much better at formulating my thoughts. Anyway, so yeah, thank you. I'm saying now because I'm really bad at hellos and goodbyes, and I had acid reflux, and my fan's off and I'm hot. Anyway, see you.